let me tell you about a simple method of accessing some of the most hidden faculties within your own being. I first came across this method in one of my absolute favorite occult books, The Yoga of Power by Julius Evola, a literal spiritual pioneer much more influential to the shifting of the aeons, in my opinion, than folks like Crowley and LaVey, but that's another conversation altogether. When I first read through this simple exercise, I ignored it. Evola only dedicates less than a page to it, and then he continues on with other related subjects. I didn't know then that this is how most occult knowledge is hidden in plain sight, in just about every scripture, metaphysical journal, or magical workbook. Really, there was another reason besides the brief mention that made me dismiss the exercise. And I want to really highlight this so that you don't make the same mistake. I dismissed this technique out of hand primarily because it seemed way too simple to produce any results. On possibly my fourth or fifth read through this book, I noticed that my attention was gradually drawn towards this one particular exercise. And so I finally decided to try it out. If it worked, then I may have found a gem. If it didn't work, then at least I'd know it for certain. The technique that I'm talking about is a simple visualization. At night before you go into sleep, you should visualize a black sun rising in the west and traveling up into the sky until it is directly overhead as if it were noon. But remember, it's nighttime, so this sun isn't going to be hot or bright, but it's going to possess properties entirely different than the sun that we're used to seeing. Now observe in your inner vision what this black sun looks like, what kind of radiation it gives off, what sort of feeling you get from it. This whole visualization should be seen and experienced as clearly as possible. Some people that I've guided through this meditation have experienced spontaneous out-of-body experiences while they're in this visualization, which of course is going to allow you the closest, the clearest, and the most intimate contact with your spiritual environment. Now when you wake up the following morning, you're going to bring the black sun to mind, only rather than seeing it rising, you're going to see it lowering from its zenith and descending beyond the eastern horizon. The first 2 days that I tried this, I didn't really notice anything special. I remember having trouble getting to sleep, but that's about the extent of it. At about the third day, though, it kicked into overdrive. My whole life, not just my inner being, but my actual life circumstances as well, started to shift in dramatic ways. In order to really communicate what this simple shift in observation does, I should tell you about the threefold nature of the black sun. To begin with, the black sun isn't some fringe part of the left-hand path occultism, but it's a force that arguably opens the door to all spiritual power. By visualizing something that is in complete contrast with the physical environment and strengthening that inner vision to the degree that it seems even more real than the five mundane senses, you're basically giving your brain permission to accept the reality of that which cannot be seen over that which can be seen. But this mind trick isn't where the potency of the black sun ends, as this isn't just a mental construct, it's an actual spiritual or energetic singularity. Authors like Thomas Carlson and Kenneth Grant have recently shed quite a bit of light on the nature of the black sun, especially through their work on the clip-off and the adverse tree. As I'm sure you already know, each planet in our solar system has been attributed with different spiritual concepts, which alone can and often are studied for lifetimes by mystics and Kabbalists. They call this the Kabbalistic tree of life. However, what is apparent is almost always a mask hiding the true and hidden nature of the thing, and all that it takes is a tiny bit of venturing deeper to reveal the fullness of the mystery. The deepest levels of hidden spiritual reality, then, have likewise been correlated with the planets, forming a dark tree or an adverse tree of Daoth. While at first glance it may seem that all that has been done is flipping around the meanings of each sphere, kind of like early Diabolists who would invert the Catholic ritual symbols and read the Lord's Prayer in reverse. As you look more and more into the adverse tree, though, you start to see that that isn't necessarily the case. By experiencing the opposite and often hidden aspects of the thing, you come to a deeper understanding of the true nature of it, especially when it comes to spiritual and existential ideas like this. In this adverse tree, the sun, or Tifereth, is replaced by the black sun, or Thagirion. When you break down the attributes of Thagirion, you're basically left with three main forces or characteristics of the sphere, and how the black sun affects those who come into contact with it. First, the disputers is one translation or extrapolation from the name Thagirion, which is, again, the name of the Klipothic black sun. In the common understanding of the symbolism of the sun, it often represents the light of God flowing unrestrained and unquestioned into existence. The black sun withdraws, causing the seeker to actually have to seek, to question all that's presented, to put all so-called truth to the test. This is a statement that the deepest mysteries are not open to all who simply breathe, but that the seeker must earn the experience that grants him the knowledge. This comes back to the same definition of Satan given in the book of Job, as an accuser and a disputer. It is his job to ask questions and to never be satisfied with half-truths. It is also his position to bring falsehood to the forefront, exposing both lies and truth. It is the same aspect that is active in the black sun, and once you come into contact with it, you're going to experience this very intensely. A good part of the internal experience is that you'll find yourself questioning everything and actually finding answers, whether for good or bad. Every belief, supposed knowledge, assumption, and attachment will go under the microscope, and you'll start to realize what in your reality needs to be amputated. This process creates true illumination, one through experience of the thing rather than taken for granted. Number 2, those who bellow grief and tears is another supposed translation of the word thagirion. At first glance, it seems that this is a basic statement as to the misery of the radiance of the black sun, in contrast to the joy brought on by our normal sun. There's also a hidden meaning here, though. The sun is attributed with life-giving properties. Most healing rituals throughout just about every spiritual system out there are centered around the sun and its symbols. If the sun gives life, the black sun takes life. Bellowing grief and tears is definitely in the realm of the funeral and the passing of the soul from one side of the veil to the other. Making contact with the black sun, in essence, is going to pull you spiritually to the other side of death. Now, I don't mean that you're necessarily going to end up dead, or even that you're going to somehow soul travel to some underworld realm where you're going to be communing with the spirits of the dead, but that you're going to gradually but quickly find yourself gaining fuller access to the mysteries. Another aspect to this is that this is the next step in the natural progression of spiritual bifurcation that's put into motion when you make this contact. The first step is the accuser, questioning everything, examining everything, and coming to your own illumination. The second step then is a process of emotionally separating yourself from your life just enough to follow up on the knowledge that was gained. And the third step would be doing something about it. Brings us to the third step, the painful movers. If the first 2 steps of this natural forging period are to know and to dare, then this third and final step would be to will. You have examined existence, and you found it lacking. You find yourself being able to detach from the world as it is in order to see the world as it could be. And if you have endured, the rays of the black sun will begin to transform existence to better meet your vision. Of course, the most personal adjustments will indeed be painful, but in a prolonged moment of clarity, you're able to let go of the illusory and strive for the eternal. I should make a point to emphasize that this is all a natural reaction to making contact with the black sun using this simple visualization. And like I said at the start, the first couple of days feel like any other new meditation that you're trying out. But once you push it beyond the 3rd day, you're definitely going to notice things changing. Now, you can continue this meditation as long as you want to, and so long as you are actually making contact with the black sun, these effects are not only going to continue, but they're going to increase. You'll find yourself drawn further from this world of matter and causality, and deeper into the rabbit hole of occult exploration. Very few can endure such a continual descent into darkness for long. But I would recommend that you continue this exercise as long as you can endure it, but for at least 6 days. Otherwise, you'll end up closing the experience before it even really begins. We'll talk again soon.